Hey, this is Max. Welcome back to another CSR2 video. I'm here today to talk to you about the Dyno Buster. There are a lot of those kind of cars in the game. It is part of the game programming that triggers this. There's no, quote, cheating involved, although people feel like this is cheating. But nonetheless, it's part of the game, and there's good reason for us to know about it, so you can decide for yourself if this is something that you want to be prepared for, or in the case of people raising bets against you in live racing, maybe give you pause before you start throwing around the in-game cash. Okay, so what is dyno busting? Dyno busting is simply the way the game designs certain cars where eventually, by sacrificing a certain amount of Evo at a higher level of upgrade, you get a dyno that doesn't really match what your upgrade level is. Theoretically, at 702 performance points with full upgrade and full Evo, this car really should be somewhere around 10-2 or even better. You know, you're talking about somewhere in the 9-second level upgrades is where you're at, but by dropping the final drive on certain cars and not having certain parts in, you can trigger what I would characterize as a dyno buster setup. And this works for probably a good 60% of tier 5s in the game, and also permeates other tiers, meaning tier 3 has them, tier 4 has them, tier 2, tier 1 has them. Not every car, but a good chunk of them. So it's nothing new and it's nothing unique to any particular car or any particular brand or any particular tier. It is possible to pull this off in various tiers with various cars. A 1 second dyno beating is probably the simplest and the most common, with the more extreme ones also being out there depending on the car. So I'm going to give you some highlights of dyno beating cars. Not all of them, but I will kind of tell you a little bit. This guy here, when driven utilizing these setups, will beat dyno a few seconds. One thing you'll notice that the lower the Evo after an adjustment to accomplish this, the lower the Evo, the greater the dyno beating. But the lower the Evo also means the slower the starting dyno, which affects your lobby matchmaking. There's really no reason to dyno 19 and run 10. Even though you dyno 19, you really are not matching any cars that's going to run anything slower than, say, 15. So that extra 4 seconds you insist on pushing as additional dyno beating doesn't help you. If anything, it'll just hurt you. So matchmaking and car design has been adjusted by natural motion to combat this, because people complain about this. Probably one of the biggest complaints from new players in live racing is some dude came in here and busted out a run that makes no sense. Well, that dude apparently knows the same strategy as I do on how these cars work, and that's what they did. And usually they do this because they need money, and this is an easy way to kind of get a leg up on opponents in live lobby and get money out of you. That's what these are. That's how these came along, because somebody wanted to beat somebody else really badly in live, and they discovered that this works. And this works with a lot of cars, and it's basically, again, becoming a common strategy. Most players find this by accident. So a certain level of upgrades, all of a sudden you tweak the tire a little bit, you drop the part in, and the next thing you know, you go, whoa, my car's like running like half a second under dyno. This is awesome. Now I can beat everybody in live. And into live you go with your 200k bets. That's how these things generally get discovered. Not for every car, but for certain cars. Most people who discover it don't necessarily understand how it works, but they just know it works. Hey, it works. I can go into 13.8 and run 11.2s and beat everybody and get money. I'm going to do it. Nitro Motion, again, now changed the matchmaking and lobbying to punish you for that. And this is why we have told newer players repeatedly that if you do this, you will kill your car. Okay, Bentley, not the easiest to do this with, but Audis are not too bad to do it. This BMW does it about a second. Okay, and I didn't fine tune it. This guy does it about a second plus. Bugattis. Oh boy, these guys are Bugattis are really good at this, particularly the Chirons. So I would never bet money against any Chiron in live just because of that, unless I'm in the Tuatara or I'm in the 992, in which case I would bet against a Chiron. But the reason being that Chirons generally has really good dyno beating capabilities and can be tuned to do it up to negative 999 in some cases, depending on how crazy you want to go. And you really don't want to be on the receiving end of their dyno beating tunes, because chances are you'll lose your money unless you have one of the better cars that can do more than this car. And this runs across the variations of Chirons. They all pretty much can do this. So, 11.9, 9.5. So that's a 12-second with a 9.5 run, basically. Okay. So Bugattis, big into that stuff. Chevys, yes, Camaros. One should not raise money against a Camaro. Any Camaro, for the most part. Not to say every Camaro in live lobby would have some like this, but the Camaros are not really that great at live racing otherwise. So if you're not using this and you're using a Camaro, your chance of losing against me is pretty great. So when I see a Camaro, I automatically assume that the said player has discovered somewhat how to leverage the Camaro's ability, and therefore they're in live with it for that reason. Of course, newer players sometimes just are Camaro lovers, and they get their first Camaro and they run into live with it going, oh man, I got my Camaro. Well, I hate to disappoint you. Most of them don't do that well in live without this. Okay? So, lots of cool Camaros, but not a lot that are truly viable in live racing. Except for the new IROC from the American Road Trip this time. That is a great live racer. So, and that doesn't need all this kind of trickery to do well either. All right. So Camaros, Dodge, well, the old classic was this guy, but as you can see, they buffed it, so it changed. So it's still capable of it. Don't underestimate its ability to beat Dyno. It's still there. Surprisingly, the rest of these, I mean, they can. This one can too. Like at plus 49, this will run about almost a second under Dyno. But let's skip the Dodges for now and move to the DA GTO, which has a more extreme negative 900 tune. Anytime you see negative, people would only put a negative tune on because it can beat whatever dyno it's supposed to beat. 14.6, we're really like reaching, beginner territory here for lobby times. If you get a basically stock car, you should be running even in some cases 13s. So 14.6, we're really reaching down to, seal, what they call it, seal bashing or seal clubbing. That's what you're doing. You're going in for complete new players and trying to club them for what little cash they have. That's just, to me, that's just wrong. Okay, so that 14.6 car will run 11.6 with that setup. All right. Now, let's see. Here's the thing. Even if you get bumped, let's say first time I went into 14.6, I ran 13.6 and won. Computer goes, oh no, you go to 13.6 now. Sure. In 13.6, I can still run 11.6. So I'm going to run, say, 12.8, right? Eventually, I'll move to 12.8, and eventually, I'll move faster and faster. So that's how that works with the new bump system. They'll bump you into faster and faster lobbies until the car's no longer competitive against other cars. 458 Special, for those who have been around long enough, we all know about this car back in the day in lobby that nobody wants to bet money against. There's a reason for that. Okay, 13.8. I can't remember how to drive it, but we'll demonstrate nonetheless. All right, here we go. Yeah, am I doing this right? I think I'm supposed to use nitrous at some point. Yes. So nitrous is important for a lot of these, quote, dyno beating tunes because you don't have much power. That's why you got the Evo drop in the first place. So you use nitrous to compensate. That's where you get that crazy number that you're able to run despite your rather unimpressive dyno. So that's about a second Okay, but that's a negative 999 tune to only squeeze a second out of the car. Slightly disappointing nowadays, since so many cars can do so much better. But 1 second under dyno is still impressively good against most opponents. All right, so that's and Ferraris. A lot of them can do this, not just that one. Ford, Twisted Mistress comes to mind as one of the big ones. While the other ones can all do it as well. Most Mustangs. Pretty much all the Mustangs except maybe one. But Twisted Mistress, big dyno beating car, 10.4. And again, I'm not running a negative tune here. I can go crazier. I'm just going to show you guys a basic, quick setup. And this one tend to get that Evo drop, but doesn't hurt it too much. I mean, Evo drop or not, this car will outrun its dyno by quite a bit. And this one doesn't even need as much, quote, special setup. It just does it well. So 10.4, 9.1. So Twisted Mistress, very common. Good for this kind of thing. And good for map racing for supply cups. If you have a Ford event, you want to do supply cups, I usually pick the Twisted Mistress. This guy has a specific area tune that does that very well. Beats dyno by a lot. Shelby, not as much that I remember. Not to say they can't do it, but I don't have it tuned that way. On the other hand, Hennessy Venom, yes. The Venom may not be that good in live racing nowadays for lack of Evo or even at full Evo, but the Venom definitely beats dyno. One setup to do it. Okay, here we go. So this is a 10.8 car. Let's see if we can do a 9 point something. It would only be cool if you can do at least 9.8 or better. So let's see what we can do. It should do better than 9.8, but we'll see. Yep. No problem beating that 9.8. 8.6 on a 10.8. Okay, so about 2 seconds. And the Hennessy Exorcist, that's basically a Camaro. So what did I tell you about Camaros earlier? So that'll tell you all you need to know about the Exorcist. Although I must have moved it because I don't see it here. Do I have it on my, here it is. Yeah, that's basically a Camaro. Let me see. We're starting to get to the ones that I haven't really spent a lot of effort tuning to demonstrate. But CX-75 definitely can beat dyno. This probably can be set up to do it. I haven't thought about it. I know this one does definitely beat dyno. So the Honda S2Ks beats dyno somewhat. Okay, yeah. Agera, yes. The Agera RS. So the 1.1 and the RS are somewhat disappointments because they don't have high Evo for live racing purposes. But the Agera RS is not that much of a disappointment if you just want to beat dyno for some reason. It does it quite well. Not at full upgrades, but removing some parts to trigger the Evo drop. So these are all Evo drop tunes. Okay, so let's see how well it runs. It's no Hennessy Venom, but it does okay. 10.1. 10.1 on a, what's the dyno? 10.1 on a 11.8. Okay, so Agera RS, there you go. One of the Koenigseggs that doesn't do the other stuff as well, but at least can do this. Moving right along, we are looking at Lamborghinis. Lots of Lamborghinis can do it. Pretty much Huracan. If you see a Huracan, there's a good chance it can beat dyno. Okay, so the LB, the regular, the STOs, and the this and that. Here we go. Here's a Performante Spider that I have set up to do that on behalf of Lamborghinis. So a lot of Lamborghinis are not very good live racers because they just don't seem to work well with high Evo, or they don't lobby well for some reason, even though they have high Evo. I don't get it. Well, fortunately, recently we have some good Lamborghinis that came along, but man, I really wish more Lamborghinis were in fact very good in live, but it just doesn't seem to be the case. But what Lamborghinis and quite a few Ferraris are good at, despite the fact that they're not otherwise good live racers, is they're pretty decent at beating dyno. Let's see what we ran there. That's a 11.3 run on a 12.8. Okay. Not the greatest number difference, but decent. So when I go to Live Lobby and I see a specific car, I generally have a vague idea of what it probably can do to me. If I see it run off on me right from the get-go, I'm not going to chase it too hard. I mean, I'm not going to back off, but I'm just going to chase it hard enough to see what it can do and leave it at that. LFA, not really. I haven't tried, but Hypersport, you can see, can do it. McLarens, quite a few McLarens can do this, and you know, the Liberty Walk is one of them. Pretty easy to set up. All the 720s tend to do it. Let's see, 720s. So there's 720S. I can show you the 720S. That's a pretty upgraded 720S, a 702, and I'm pretty positive I have it set up to beat dyno. 9.5, not 8.9. So it's not a massive dyno beating. So let's just so this should run. But this we're talking about in the faster lobbies, and that's kind of that brings to another point. Dyno beating is less prevalent, okay, because as you sacrifice Evo, most of these cars end up in a lot slower dyno. Dyno beating on a massive level is less prevalent among cars in the 8-second and, well, 8.5 and quicker lobbies. But from 9.0 and slower, it is much more prevalent. So in 9.6, I can run 9.0. I may not be able to run a full second under, but some cars even fully max, like the Plymouth GTX, which is the classic example, is they'll run a second under dyno fully maxed. So nobody even tried to tune it to do that. It just does it. So you got that to worry about. Mercedes, quite a few cars that'll beat dyno. The AMG GTR is the most well-known. GT Black Series has it as well. Again, without a super aggressive setup, I can have the GT Black Series in a 11-second range lobby doing much better. So in this case, 11.4. Let's go ahead and run it. This is another one that I just kind of tweaked real quick because I ran somebody in lobby who bet me 200K. So at the first, I didn't even remember this car can do it. But then I'm like, oh, it's a Mercedes. Come on. Max, you know Mercedes all beat dyno. I mean, it can be tuned to pretty much do it. All Mercedes, it's a little exaggeration. Most Mercedes, I should say. So that wasn't even an optimal launch. I got a 0 RPM drop, but you can see that, you know, I'm doing 10.8 on a 11.3. That's half a second. It can do better than that. You can get a second off from just launching it a certain way. So that one's a second. I think the AMG GTR can do more, like 2.5 seconds or something. So this guy will do a lot more. Nissans, I don't have one set up to demonstrate for you, and I'm not going to waste your time watching me set it up, but I've managed to get the Nissans to beat it as well. This one definitely can do it too. I'm not sure about this M500, but I remember one of these guys can do it. Pagani, well, the most classic example of that is the HP Barchetta. This one, Barchetta, I don't know how to pronounce it. But Pagani's personal pride, privately designed for him ride, because it's got like different color wheels and plaid seats. This one was pretty well known for beating dyno because when Showdown was around and this car was available in it, and at that time Showdown was using dyno as the option, we had this car being tuned for that purpose. People were using it to beat Dyno, and that's where also the Porsche 992 and the Tuatera Dyno beating setups were discovered or released, was during those showdowns, because people found it and go, ooh, I can Dyno, like, 13 and run 8. Or in the case of the Tuatera, 13 and run 7s. And that's why those became real popular after that showdown thing. And then Natural Motion naturally realized that's not a good thing. And they took the Dyno base showdown away from us as quickly as they introduced it. Now we're at the end of the A to Z brand list for the most part. So this is good because I'm starting to get tired. And you're probably starting to get tired of listening to me. But the next group that's well known is Plymouth. This is probably the biggest of the dyno beatings out of the Plymouth. This one can be tuned to accomplish something like this, but it'll be a negative 999 automatically. It just doesn't, it jumps from whatever to negative 999. You don't have an in between. This one can be tuned to beat dyno, and this one naturally beats dyno. Porsche, all the RWBs beat dyno. Most of the Porsche 911s can be tuned to beat dyno. Not all, but most. And the 992 is obviously the most famous of the dyno beating out of these cars. But Porsche, definitely can do it. So 992 is the one that we know the most about. S1, negative tune, can do it. Prelier Tour, I don't remember if it did or not, but I think it does. And that brings us kind of towards the end here. 004C, I can set it up to beat it. But I don't remember how I did it, so I'm not going to mess with it. Tuatera, definitely. The Tuatera is probably, right now, the king of usable crazy dyno beating car, because you have the dyno of 11.3, and it will run much, much faster. Much, much faster, yeah. Let me see what it runs. I don't remember exactly what it runs, but I just remember it ran really fast. Okay. And we are almost there. 7.6. 7.7. So 7.7 on 11.3. So the Tuatera is the mortal enemy of the Porsche 992. They could be in the same lobby, and if they are, if they really had to put down some money, guess who's going to win? Okay, so this guy is, the kryptonite to the 992. All right, and that's really, we're at the end here. This car again, TS1 GT, the last one we're going to showcase. Supras can be tuned to beat dyno too. I remember I did it with that Fast and Furious Supra for a while, but not a huge amount, but a decent amount. This one, 15.2. I'm pretty sure it's going to run better than 15.2. Whether it's going to run 11s, that's the question. Okay, here we go. Let's try not to botch this run. Oh, I botched it anyway because I forgot to use the launch button, but it's okay. It's okay. We should still be able to do decently fast in comparison to the dyno. And there it is, 10.9, not the greatest run, but 10.9 out of 15. So that, my friends, quick showcase of dyno beating and some examples of dyno beating cars in almost every brand. And that basically gives you an idea just how prevalent this is in the game. Expect this to happen in live lobby quite often because people do it. Why wouldn't I? It's an advantage that comes from a certain level of build for the car. It's an advantage for those who are looking for a quick buck to throw a 200K out there. It's just going to get used. Sure, Natural Motion understands that players complain about this, and they've been trying to correct this with the newer cars by not allowing the grip to be as high on the tires, by making you skip first gear sometimes just to get the car going. Those are all techniques in the way they program the cars now to avoid this Evo drop dyno beating tune. They also have the matchmaking adjusted where people that run faster than their dyno gets pushed into faster lobbies. All these are correction techniques they've been using to level the playing field against this. But I see this every day still in live lobby. people are still going to use it. Just so you understand that there are lots and lots of cars that can do it depending on how the person have it set up and where they have it set up, which lobby. So don't always be surprised when you see it. And, you know, opinions vary, but to me, it's built into the game. It's just the way it's programmed. I don't consider it cheating. I don't consider it fair play, but I certainly don't feel this is outright cheating in some format, because it's not a outside mod being added to the game to make the cars do this. Anyway, feel free to give me your opinions or your stories about some car that did this to you in lobby, and we can always go investigate that car and find out how they did it. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you like my channel and like learning about stuff like this, subscribe, hit the bell, and you get notified when I put up new videos. And as always, thank you for watching my videos. I'll catch you next time.